Hello, I'm James Barth from Rock Hard 4x4, and today we're going to show you how to install the XJ cage. Now, the XJ cage, we have an early and a later model, and it depends on the style if you have. There's a difference in the dash, which requires a different style of cage. But we make both, and we have them for the 2-door and the 4-door and the little truck. Now, we want to go over a few things on this install. They have different caps, which we're going to show you where they go. We have the black caps that are showing here today are for the harness bars. We have the bolts that are going to go through the floor with the locking nuts, with the plates that are going to go on the bottom side. So this cage is what you would consider an 8-point cage, where it's going to mount in the front, your A pillar, B pillar, and in the back with the 45s. This is a particular 45 brace here. All your cage bolts are here. These are going to be bolts where they go down through the plates and mount. We'll go through that as we do the install. A couple things that's really important. We want people to test fit these cages. Now, I have prior test fit this cage before I powder coated it. It's one thing that's really important, so that you know how things go, for a couple reasons. One is that way you can put it in and try to eliminate any type of scratches that you're going to get on your detail job of painting the cage or powder coating it. You know how things go. The other thing is that way if there's any type of questions as far as how things go, you get an idea how things are going to fit. It's just really important to test fit your cages on all of our different vehicles that we build. Now, as we go through this here today, after we've powder coated this cage, all the cage kits come with a tap. We've ran the tap through the bolt holes to make sure that the threads are clear from any paint or any type of other debris. And we have a little deal of oil right here, as we're going to dip the bolt in each oil as we put it in. That is very important. As you are locking these down, you're going to be tightening them down, and they're a very high tolerance thread and a high quality grade 8 bolt. So let's go ahead and start with this install. You're also going to need a drill, where we're going to drill through the plates through the floor, and we're going to show you how to locate everything and making sure that the front section is far enough forward. So we're going to start with this section that's going to go around the dash first, and we're going to start there now. Okay. Now, to get this in here, what we did is we lowered it down on the driver's side, brought it through right here, and brought it back, and then down in place. It can be done, it's kind of easier with 2 people, so that you don't make sure you hit anything, scratch anything, or tear any part of your interior. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring this forward over the top of the dash, and we're going to push it on both sides. Okay? It's going to take somebody on both sides of the vehicle to push this on, as it goes right up against the dash, really tight on both sides. And we're going to go ahead and push this in place and get it lined up down on the bottom. Now, one thing, if some XJ owners out there have removed their carpet, if you have removed your carpet, please let us know when ordering your cage, and we'll sell you or get you another set of floor plates, as the spacing is designed to go over the top of the carpet. If you don't have your carpet and the padding, we need to give you an extra set of plates to double up on the bottom. You're just going to get it on your dash. I'll bring mine out a little bit, okay, and bring it forward. That's it. As you're bringing this forward, you want to make sure that you're far enough forward. How you'll be able to tell is you'll be able to just get your finger width in between the windshield and the bar, and it's going to be right up against the dash here on the lower side. Now, we've went ahead and brought the H section in. We did it through the driver's side. We just brought it through, and then I brought that side kind of above the wheel, and we were able to maneuver it through, get it in here. We've put towels in place so that we don't scratch it as we do the install. Now that we have it in this particular location, we're going to go ahead and remove the towels, and we're going to go ahead and start the clamps, but we're going to leave everything really loose. Don't forget to put a little bit of oil on each of the threads of the bolts. The caps that go on the front area are the ones with the flats. Now, what we've done here is we've went ahead and started the bolts on the front H section. This is what we call an H section, which is above your head in the forward area. What we've done is we've started the outer bolts a little tighter than the back bolts, but enough that we could still rotate this H section up in place. We brought this rear hoop in from the back of the vehicle, and you'll notice on the floor that the plates go forward. We took a cap, which doesn't belong here, to hold this in place. This cap will be at the back of the Jeep. The next bars that we will install are going to be the side bars going back. But once we have a cap on this side, it holds everything in place. We'll go ahead and install the side bar on that edge, and then we'll remove the cap here and install this sidebar and install the rear hoop. One thing I wanted to cover before we move further back is we do have a cap here holding this H section up onto this second B bar. Now, when you are putting this H section in place, bring the edge of the visor mirrors, bring the edge of the visors inward. If you have the visor in between here, you won't have any luck with using them for later on. You can also take the end of the visor, and if you see, this is cardboard underneath. If you take and you cut it here, you can stuff it back underneath and it'll look really nice and factory and shorten your visor up slightly. But make sure your visor is not in between the out edge. One thing we did is we do remove the outer screws here, which hold the handles in place. Some of them take a Torx, sometimes a 25, some of them takes like a 5/16 socket. So it just depends on what screws they actually use to hold your handles on. Remove the handles front and back to allow access to get these H section in place and the rear sidebars. One thing we haven't done is we haven't fully tightened all of the collars in place or any of the floor bolts. Everything is let loose until we get everything in place. If we need to do a little bit of shifting around, that's kind of normal and that's all right. That's the beauty of this. Another thing that's important is to make sure that you have clearance with stuff. You can take a strap and pull something a little bit left or right if needed before you lock it down in place. We just set the rear hoop in place. If you notice the Jeep is a little wider here, you can go right here with it, and you're going to go down and put it right here on the edge of the floor. Now we're going to go ahead and bring the bar that we don't have a cap on and place it in on the passenger side. Once we finish here, we're going to go through and we're going to explain to you and show you where all the holes are going to get drilled in the body. And so that is one of your steps that you're going to be doing as you do this, but we're going to go through and do that all at once so you're going to know where the placement of all those are at. We're going to go ahead and install this right-hand bar at this time. Some people ask a little bit as far as how this bar goes. On the earlier style of XJ, the tab goes forward and it goes in between the gas fill and the wheel well with the hoop with a little bit of rear angle. Now what we did is we went ahead and brought the right-hand bar in place. This connects to the front H section and has a cap at the back. So how you'll know is which way it goes is there's threads at the back in this bar and it'll be open because there's threads into the H section. These two connect right here. Go ahead and put them in, leave them in place, but leave them loose. Make sure you're putting oil on each bolt as you put it in. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the cap that we put on the driver's side, which held that bar in place, while we could install this one and install that sidebar. Now we went ahead and removed the cap that we put on here temporarily, and we went ahead and installed this bar. Now, one thing to keep in mind is we do remove the grab handles on both sides, front and back. When we do have the bar in place, you're going to put a cap on the outside and the back on both sides. Now, with everything loose, we can go ahead and start squaring stuff up, go ahead and finish drilling the rest of our floor holes for our mounting, and then at that point, once we have it squared up, then we will install the 45 bars going forward from the back bar to the wheel well. As we've went ahead and installed both rear side bars, our rear hoop, our center hoop, our front H section, and our around the dash area, we're going to go ahead and start tightening everything in place. Now, one thing I do a lot of times is I will grab some ratchet straps and square everything up. Okay, because what I want this thing so that when you're looking at it, it's visually correct also. So, like for instance on here, I needed to pull this down slightly a little bit. So I put a strap around it. Now we'll go ahead and snug the bolts. Make sure you put oil on all the bolts. And we're going to go ahead and start tightening everything front to back or back to front. On the lower floor plates at the bottom of the dash at the floor, people wonder where you drill that first hole. This is a factory drain plug that's in the vehicle, or you can see an area where you can take it out if you ever needed to. What we're going to do is you're going to drill that first hole right through the center of it. That's how you know where to locate the front piece, the lower section that goes around the dash. We've went ahead and drilled it. Now we'll go ahead and pull the bolt straight, put our plate over it, and mount the nuts on it. As you can see here, we've went right down through the drain hole in the center of the vehicle also. This is where the center hoop mounts. You're going to mount drill the larger hole first, half-inch hole down through the drain plug. That'll locate where the bottom of that hoop goes. Then you can go ahead and drill the other two bolts afterwards. So this is the bigger half-inch bolt. This is the one that goes through that drain hole. So this is how you'll locate it. You'll need to drill these two afterwards. On the four-door models, just like the front hoops, we go right through the drain hole in the back here. This is where you will locate the third hoop. Now as we continue the install on this XJ cage, we've went ahead and tightened all the floor mounts and got everything situated. Well, the biggest thing is making sure the cage is stayed forward. Now, when we install these angle bars here in the back, we went around 24.5 inches up from the bottom, 24 3/8 and 24.5 right here to this area from the base. Now, these angle bars, there is a left and a right, and you'll notice that when it's installed, it'll come right up against the wheel well. We will drill through the wheel well and then use the Allen head bolts that are provided with the plate on the inside of the wheel well. These angle braces are very important. People have asked why we put them in there. And the reason is it helps triangulate the cage and it keeps it from going more of this way in the event of a rollover. So make sure you install these angle bars while you're doing it. Now that we've finished the install of the cage, we've went ahead and installed the harness bars also. The harness bars are designed for your shoulder straps of 4 or 5 point harnesses. Now, these bars you want within a couple inches of up or down of your shoulder, and so we have this right at the top of the seat here. Now, these lock in place off of our collars, just like the cage does. Now, to install this, sometimes you may need to loosen it at the wheel well a little bit because your width is not variable, but it does bolt right in. It was a simple install, and we went ahead and did the front also, which we'll show you. One thing, when you're installing the front harness bar, some people have asked as far as what height to put this. Because of the size of the person I am and my wife that'll be driving this Jeep along with our daughters, I went ahead and put it right here about shoulder height. That way it's within a couple inches up and down depending on who's driving it, the vehicle, and it locks in place. A good rule of thumb is it's almost even with the bottom of the windows. Now, to get this harness bar in, because the angle of the collar doesn't come in perfectly square with it, what we had to do is we did loosen it at the floor, and then it seemed to be slightly off, but I was able to just grab it and pop it in place to get it there. One thing always to remember when we just install this harness bar and we talk about popping it in place and stuff, biggest thing is these collars are designed to where they will clamp up and they are going to be extremely tight. They do not move once they are tightened down. Make sure that you put oil on the threads and make sure that you run a tap in and out of the collar holes. And if you booger something up, we'll be glad to get you extra bolts if needed, but most of the time you can just run a tap in and out of the threads, clean them up, and you're good to go. Hello, I'm James Barth from Rock Hard 4x4, and I want to talk to you about our XJ cage here. Now, this XJ cage comes uncoated, the one that you see here. Everything that is in silver of the roll cage comes with our basic cage. This does have our optional harness bars available also. Now, this cage is an 8-point cage. It mounts to the floor in the front, and you'll see in the pictures how it goes around the outside of the dash so you're not knocking your knees on it getting in and out. You'll see that it has the pillar here in the center with the main hoop, and then also the hoop in the back and with the angle bars. This cage is a bolt-in application. It does require drilling through the floor and through the wheel wells where you mount the plates on the bottom side. It's fairly simple to install. What I mean by that is it's not something you're going to install in a couple hours, but you can install it in a day, and it'll look really nice, and it'll come out and you'll have a complete roll cage in your Jeep.